if I get on the scale and I see a number and it's not where I want to be, it doesn't mean I'm failing. It just means that I have more to go. So it's important to set goals along the way. In every task or every goal that I've had in life, I've tried to find somebody who's really good at that and then learn it from there. And I think that you can easily do that with investing or any other goal setting that you're doing.
Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing, James?
You ready to talk stocks and more?
I think so. I mean, it's pretty hard to beat a setting like this.
Yes, it's gorgeous. Tell me about this location.
Well, we are in the mountains of Colorado,
Okay.
with some beautiful lakes behind us. So nice little getaway from the city and, you know, kind of a chance to kind of like reflect and talk through things.
Yeah, in line with the theme of retreat and pulling away, wanted to pull back and talk a little bit about the skills and personal habits that helped get you here. One of those things around goal setting.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about your growth and your understanding of goal setting and why it's important.
The first thing that when it comes to like investing or just anything in life is setting goals like you've mentioned. So setting goals is really important. And when you think about goals, I think they need to be both long-term and short-term. For example, if I'm trying to lose weight, I have a set goal that I'm trying to lose. But if I get on the scale and I see a number and it's not where I want to be, it doesn't mean I'm failing. It just means that I have more to go. So it's important to set goals along the way. And I think investing or anything you want to do in your life is very similar to that. I need to have a long-term focus, but there needs to be milestones that I hit along the way. And I think that's the first thing of when I think about goals is I have the long-term target, but then what are the key steps I have to knock out in order for me to get there?
So it's maybe a vision for the end goal, but identifying the steps and iterative accomplishments along the way?
Yes. And the next step also is kind of being open to those goals changing. There are certain things that are not necessarily going to change. For example, the weight loss goal. You have a number in mind, you're probably going to stick to it. But for career goals, like I went to school for engineering, I've done zero engineering in my life. And when I was in school, I didn't know that, right? But as career opportunities opened up, I was able to pivot, and I didn't really know what I was going to be coming about, but it allowed me to like just take advantage of those moments and kind of keep going with that. So that's another key learning I had is you have to be really adaptable when you are setting goals. And when it comes to investing, it's not good to just be like, I want to save $10,000. It's like, okay, why do you need $10,000? It needs to be a little bit deeper than that. It needs to be more about like what you're actually trying to accomplish with the money rather than putting just a set number. Have you ever thought about something like that yourself?
Yeah, totally. And I think having that vision of what the goal helps achieve or realize also is motivating along the way when you're
That's right.
struggling with the task or you know, not feeling motivated and things like that. Who helped you create your own vision and value of goal setting? Where'd you learn all that from?
Yeah, so I was lucky to be raised in a house where we were basically taught discipline, if you will. You know, like I couldn't play video games until the chores are done. You know, I can't go hang out with my friends until the chores are done. Like I had like a nice structure. My dad was in the Air Force, so that allowed me to like really get good discipline. So he was kind of, I would say, one of the first people where I learned like having structure and order allows you to set up these processes to get things done. Yeah, I am also a really big proponent of when I'm learning a new skill is finding an expert in that area and going in and, you know, trying to almost copy what they're doing to start. So if I'm trying to learn investing, I want to find people that know what they're doing and kind of just, you know, absorb what they're talking about and kind of want to copy the skill sets that they're doing until I start learning enough. And then I can start taking what I've learned from the expert, combining it with my experience, and then I can start becoming my own expert in my way. And every task or every goal that I've had in life, I've tried to find somebody who's really good at that and then learn it from there. And I think that you can easily do that with investing or any other goal setting that you're doing.
Yeah, in fact, that's in part why you started this channel, Alex
right.
Talks Stocks. And the first season, I encourage anyone listening to check that out, but really talks about having that right mindset. And you talked about discipline being important. What are some of the ways within goal setting have you seen discipline make the difference, or where it's not having discipline impacted your ability to achieve a goal?
Yeah, so I think discipline helps you build resiliency. And specifically with investing, I mean, this year has been crazy, right? We've seen the market hit highs and then crash, and then it seems like we're coming up, but who knows what's going to be in store for the rest of the year. If I don't have a plan or a strategy and I lack resiliency, I may have sold my stocks during those really big, deep declines we had recently. But if I stick to a plan, my mind is strong and I'm resilient to being affected emotionally because I have a plan, I may have actually looked at those dips as a buying opportunity, and I might be in a better space now than I was just a couple of months ago. So I think that's just one example. You can, no matter what the plan is, it's never going to go exactly according to plan. I would think that's another big takeaway I've had of, there is no way that you could have told me that I would be here right now, 10 years ago. There's
Right.
no way. And the only way you can go about doing things is setting those goals, working it through, and then, being a lifelong learner and understanding that it's never going to go to a plan, but it's more of how you react to the situation.
That's fair. That makes sense. Let's apply that a little bit as like a case study. So let's say you're somebody interested in investing, but you're at the very beginning, whatever age that you are. What kind of map out or outline what you would encourage them to think about, prioritize, and goal set against?
So I think the first goal that I would want anybody that's just getting started is establishing a really good budget. So like before I even get to investing, my first step is, how do I dial in my budget? And we talked about the 70-20-10 framework of 70% of my money going to the must-haves, 20% of my money going to investing, which would include my 401k, my retirement accounts, and then my 10% being my emergency savings and kind of my fun money, if you will. And so if I get that budget dialed in, that's the first step, because I can't get to my end goal of, let's say, retiring early through investing until my budget is dialed in. Because if the budget's dialed in, I'll be putting in as much money as I can to investing, which allows me to get to that retirement goal. So I think that would be like the first step that I would recommend there.
Yeah, and that could be a big achievement in itself, assessing your budget, finding out where you got to cut, making those disciplined choices, saying no to yourself for whatever extra spend you don't need, and then living in that budget. Okay, so I decided, all right, I've got a budget. Maybe it's not 70-20-10, but it might be 95-5 or something like that. So I've got the game plan. Now I have a little bit to invest in. What are some of the goals an investor could set up as some examples?
So I think a great goal could be, I want to invest X amount per month. So I carve out enough and I commit to doing that. And I commit to doing that for 6 months or a year. And you're going to have weird things come up. The TV might break, or, a child or something gets sick and I have to go pay these extra bills. A dog gets sick, whatever. There might be months where it's hard for me to do, but if I can just mentally commit to that and make sure that I build on that, if I look back over time and I stick to it, it starts teaching myself of like, okay, I can actually set a plan and I can actually execute it from there. And we've talked about how empowering it is to establish something and make steps towards it. That's how it'll start coming into play. All of the buckets start becoming easier to do from there.
So maintaining that discipline, which is leveraging dollar cost averaging, this month I'm investing into these stocks and continuing along with that. Well, that's helpful. Tell us a little bit about your specific goals, maybe in your early investing, mid investing, and where you are now. Not only your goals though, or what for you personally are you investing for?
So this is so interesting because this answer has changed a lot throughout my life. So when I was first investing, I had just moved to California and I was quickly realizing how expensive everything was. So I didn't have a clear goal in mind of like why I was investing. My goal was to make more money. And that was helpful to get me started, but it also made it so it was hard to keep on track, because what does really make more money mean? So as life went on more, I started dialing in of, I want to be able to make $1 million. And then it's like, okay, well, why do you want $1 million? What is that going to unlock? And so as I started learning this, building my career and learning the value of time and money and starting to understand that, it started being like, okay, well, how do I retire early? That's the number. And like, what number do I need to get to in order for me to be able to open that up? Because I want to be doing more of this rather than, continuing to work my whole life. And investing has really unlocked that as an opportunity for me of, you don't have to keep grinding all the time. If you do investing well, it can really unlock some of these other things.
Can you use investing for smaller iterative goals? So let's just say, 1 to 5 year type goals. And how do you balance that between long-term investing, where you keep your money in, versus maybe something shorter where you do take out gains or you do leverage some of what you've already earned?
So I think one of the gauges that I like to do is on a yearly basis, am I keeping up with the average return of the market? So that's kind of like my short-term goal each year in between the long term is, because long term I want to outperform the market by a lot. But each year, the amount that you can maybe grow your stocks is going to vary based off of all the macro environment, right? It's really hard for me to want to grow 20% if the market only grew 5% that year. Because when you look at the return over time, everybody talks about, the market averages 7 to 10% a year. And on average, that is true, but there are years where it's up 20, and then there are years where you could possibly be down 10. So it's important that on a yearly basis, I kind of reset how much I think I can contribute and how much I can realistically grow for that year. I think that would be an example of a short-term one. And as those years start adding up, I can start tracking towards how am I getting towards that 5-year goal? And then I can adjust from there. The key from this, it has to be a little bit of a moving target. It's really easy to get down on yourself if you feel like you're not hitting these. Everybody makes mistakes or things don't always go as planned. So that's important to keep in mind as well.
Drilling into that a little bit, so you have this long-term goal, you have a short-term goal. It's all in the same pool of investment. Is it just a realization like, okay, I want to buy a house, but I'm also saving for a long-term retirement. I've made some gains. I'm 5-10 years in. I'm ready to buy a house. You just accept that you're going to take a little bit of that out and you're going to reset a little bit towards your long-term goal. How does one balance some of those challenges?
That's right. And getting a house was another kind of short-term goal within my long-term horizon. And when I purchased the house a couple of years ago, I knew that financially it may not be the best decision because the market is such a good vehicle to continue building your wealth. When you end up selling stocks, you may end up selling things you don't necessarily want to generate the money you need to get the house. And I think that's okay because, again, we are building for retirement, but we're not always just trying to save money forever. I would like to do fun things in my life and go travel the world and that kind of thing. You only want to save money to go do things. And so the money allows you as a vehicle to open up for those other opportunities to come happen.
That makes sense because you could get easily, just even in my own experience, get lost in wanting to continue to compound it, to grow it, to maximize it. And you almost get a little stringent about, I can't touch it, I can't use it, and get sight of the whole purpose of why we want money or why we want to grow money or how we can use money for some of our own personal goals.
That's right. And one of my old jokes was I cannot live under my NVIDIA stock. It doesn't matter how much it grows or how big it gets. Ultimately, it's a vehicle to open up other opportunities in your life.
Well, thanks. So going back to our new investor, they've taken steps. They're in it for the long term. They have also set some goals, but inevitably, as you mentioned, there's going to be setbacks.
Right.
Can you think of some examples, whether in your own goal setting, whether it's education or sports or even investing, where you had a setback, but what was helpful for you to get back on track, get refocused, get back into it to a point that you gained some more momentum? Any ideas or things come to your mind?
Yeah, I think the biggest example of this was the pandemic. And not only did it set my investing back, I mean, that set everybody's life back. Nobody planned for that. That impacted people's lives when you're either starting your career off, you're in college and you can't go to your classroom anymore. That was the setback the entire world was able to experience. And coming out of that, you know, you can deal with it multiple different ways, and you can be like, oh, poor me, why did I have to go through this? Or how can I spend that time and how can I learn from that moving forward? When I was invested that year, that was one of the worst years for stocks because the market trades on the future. And there was no darker time for I do not know what the future is and what the market is going to be than when that happened within the last decade. That was the bottom. Everybody's account was down. And it would have been really easy to be like, stocks and investing is not a good idea.
Yeah, that's
for me,
fair.
especially if I was new.
Right.
You know, let's say you just started, I put my money in, and the market cratered 20% in a couple of days on you.
Yeah, and I wasn't really investing during COVID, but I did when I started right after Alex talked stocks. We hit a few dips, and I was like, uh-oh, say goodbye
Here
to
we
that
go.
money.
Yep.
But I remember you saying, you just got to go through the depths of hell sometime
That's
and
right.
just hold on and come back out, you know, wait for that dark night to get over and see the sunrise, if you will. I'd like to go back to the aspect that you mentioned about always learning or researching in that early beginner steps of learning about investing or whatever it is you're endeavoring towards. What advice would you give to somebody starting? Obviously, we could recommend our own content, you know, that we've already shared to help the investor. But what did you leverage? What did you use? What did you look up? What were the things that were helpful to you?
To get started investing.
Yeah, exactly. Like what, because you mentioned being a learner.
Yes.
How did you learn about investing beyond some of the obvious things?
I'm a really big researcher myself. So whenever I'm taking on a new task, I want to learn everything there is about it. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to limit as many mistakes I make on that. I'm one of those people that doesn't like not being good at things, and it's frustrating for me when I'm not good. So I try to get good by, you know, spending all my time trying to figure that out. I think it's really important that when I am learning a new skill, from one we talked about, trying to find an expert, and that expert could be online, but then combining that with my own research and learning. There are all kinds of articles out there that you can read on how to invest, all kinds of learning materials that exist for me to understand measures, to understand the risk levels, to understand even how to go about doing that. And so I think we've talked about the ability to be resilient, to have discipline. You need to be able to adapt because you just never know what is going to be happening in life. What do you think you were going to be doing then with your goals when it comes to investing?
That's a good question. I think one of my short-term goals, because I didn't have a lot to start with, but I committed, you know, a certain amount of money. And one of the first goals I had was to double it.
Okay.
You know, and it's not, you can't do that immediately, but,
Right.
you know, keeping an eye on that, continue doubling it, not just from the gains, but continually investing in it. So that was one of my goals, is to double it as kind of my initial experience into investing. And I think I'm not real close, but I've definitely made progress, as you saw in my portfolio review. So that's exciting to see that, and it's empowering as well to keep on continuing that. And then a little bit longer term for me, of course, is just to continue to invest into my own retirement and some of being able to take care of my family and a little bit more in the long term. So that's definitely in the horizon for me. But I'm hoping, as hopefully the market continues to grow and I continue to invest, it opens up new goals and new opportunities. Potentially, you know, a 5 to 10 year from now special vacation or something like that that can be really paid for from my earnings from investment. So that's also exciting to do. But those were continue to be some of my own goals that are also motivating when you kind of put a target that you're going on.
Yeah, so you're looking for ways to kind of improve your family life long term,
Yeah.
the lives of your family. Short term, doubling probably is one we probably would want to revisit of like, what is a better one?
Right.
You know, because I can say I can double it. That doesn't matter. What happens if the market tripled during that time period and you only doubled? So what do you think is like a better goal then that you could change the doubling into?
No, that's a good point. Yeah, but being new though, it was like, what would be great to see? And I was just like, wow, if I could double my money from the market, to me that I'm sold. But that's a good point. What I like about this experience that I think is helpful for me, whether it's been in my own education or my vision for my life, is taking moments like this where you pull back from the day-to-day grind. You go to a place that helps you relax, helps you unplug, so you can reflect and think about, what are you doing? Is it what you want to do? Is it accomplishing or helping you achieve your goals? And sometimes it's not. I've made career changes where I've asked myself, what am I doing and why am I doing this?
Right.
I've had relationships, friendships where I've asked, okay, this is a setback. This is not moving me forward. So I do appreciate this, obviously, a literal approach that we're doing, but my contribution, I would say, is baking in that reflection time and that ability to self-reflect and to say, am I doing what I want to be doing? Am I working towards the goals I want to work on? Am I living the life I want to live? And all of those things to help refine and direct some of this action or endeavor. I mean, do you relate to that? Have you baked in any of that kind of self-reflection or self-study to help align yourself?
As I've gotten older in life, I value time like this more than I ever have because it's so important to be able to take a step back and really sit there and reflect. When I'm grinding and thinking about your job all day or the everydays in and outs of random events that happen, you kind of get lost in the moment. You don't really have time to reflect either where you need to go or where you've come from. So I really do think it is an important exercise for people to be able to do.
I've had a old mentor of mine say that you want to divert daily, withdraw weekly, and abandon annually. And in some ways, this is an abandonment of the day-to-day where you can come and have moments like this to reflect. What do you do on a weekly basis that helps you kind of stay centered?
My big thing is fitness. That's what keeps my mind right. I really try to focus fitness and nutrition. And it seems weird, how would fitness and nutrition help me get better at investing? But what it teaches you is that you can do things for the right reasons and it can actually have a payoff. It allows me to keep my energy up, keep my mind focused, and then make good decisions from there. And that translates to not only what I'm doing at my workplace, but to also investing. And this could go on a whole tangent from there.
Sure.
But those simple things can add up to just making the right decision from there.
Well, we appreciate you sharing a little bit of your own withdraw and retreat, special time. Hopefully it's been beneficial for you. We look forward to getting back on schedule with the episode next week. But any final thoughts on sharing with our listeners about goal setting, prioritization, and focus?
I think the big takeaway from all of this is that it's important to have goals that are both long-term and short-term, and to be open that those goals may change. It's so important to be flexible, and it's important to stay positive. That would be the main thing, that it doesn't matter if you're too late to the game in investing or if you're brand new and young and excited to get going, you have the same process ahead of you no matter what you do.
Well, Alex, thanks for bringing us here and sharing some of your thoughts about goal setting and personal habits and reflection. I encourage the listeners to like and subscribe, not only to catch previous content, but new episodes coming up as we discuss not only the stock market, but best practices and habits to help bring to success whatever goal one endeavors towards. So thank you.
Absolutely. And one of the things I would like to tease out is that we are going to be releasing a tier ranking list So stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Alex.
See you next time.
Talk to you soon.